Hello and welcome. In this text, you will hear the powerful and inspiring story of Nelson Mandela, the man who spent 27 years in prison and later became the first black president of South Africa. We will explore his life, his courage, his fight for freedom, and why the whole world still honors his name today. Read slowly, repeat out loud, and learn English with us, step by step, word by word. Let's begin. It was a cold morning in a small village in South Africa. A boy named Nelson Mandela was born in 1918. His first name means, pulling the branch of a tree, in the Xhosa language. But no one in the village knew that one day, this quiet boy would change the whole world. His story is one of courage, hope, and an endless fight for freedom. He was born in the village of Mvizo, near the banks of a river. His father was a respected leader of the Thembu people. When the boy was just 9 years old, his father died. After that, a new chapter in his life began. A chief took him in and raised him like a prince. This young boy, full of dreams, listened to stories about warriors and kings. He imagined himself as a hero who would help his people. When he went to school, his teacher gave him the English name, Nelson. At that time, it was common for African children to receive English names. Nelson did not choose this name himself, but it stayed with him forever. He was a good student and loved to learn. He read many books and became curious about the world. But even in school, he saw that life was unfair for black children. They had fewer chances than white children. This made him angry, but he kept his feelings deep inside. As he grew older, Mandela went to a university. There, he studied law. But he also began to see the truth about his country. South Africa was ruled by white people. Black people had to carry special documents. They could not vote, go to the same schools, or even sit on the same benches. The system was called apartheid, and it was very cruel. Mandela could not stay silent. He joined a group called the African National Congress, or ANC. This group wanted to end apartheid. At first, they used peaceful ways, marches, speeches, and letters to leaders. Mandela believed that change could come through talks and unity. But the government did not listen. They arrested people and beat them. They made new laws to keep black people poor and powerless. Mandela and his friends realized that words were not enough. They had to do more. They formed a secret group to fight against the system. They did not want to hurt anyone, but they wanted to shake the system. They set off small bombs in empty buildings to send a message. Mandela became known as the Black Pimpernel because he hid from the police and moved from place to place. Then, one day in 1962, the police caught him. Mandela was put on trial. He stood in court, calm and proud. He spoke words that touched the world. He said, "I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the idea of a democratic and free society. It is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." These words became famous. Mandela was sentenced to life in prison. He was sent to a cold island called Robben Island. His cell was very small. There was no bed, just a mat on the floor. The days were long and hard. He worked in a lime quarry. The sun was bright and burned his eyes. He was not allowed to see his wife often. His children grew up without him. But Mandela did not give up. He read books, wrote letters, and studied. He even helped other prisoners learn. His prison number was 46664. This number became a symbol. People around the world began to ask, why is this good man in prison? Protests grew in many countries. Musicians wrote songs about him. Posters showed his face. The world was changing. And still, Mandela waited. For 27 years, he stayed in prison. But his spirit never broke. He believed that one day, South Africa would be free. The years passed slowly on Robben Island. Day after day, year after year, Nelson Mandela lived behind bars. But even though the prison walls were strong, his mind stayed free. He read, he wrote, and he taught. He taught other prisoners not only how to read and write, but how to stay strong in their hearts. Even the prison guards began to respect him. They saw he was different, calm, proud, and full of dignity. Outside the prison, the world was changing. More and more people were learning about apartheid. They saw how cruel it was. Countries around the world started to speak out. They told South Africa to stop. Some countries stopped trading with South Africa. Others refused to play sports with them. The pressure was growing. Inside South Africa, the fight became stronger. Black people marched in the streets. Many were arrested. Some were killed. But they did not stop. They shouted Mandela's name. He became a symbol of hope. Even though no one had seen him for years, his face was everywhere, on posters, on t-shirts, in songs. People believed that if Mandela was free, then one day they would be free too. Then something unexpected happened. In the 1980s, the South African government started to worry. They saw that the world was against them. Their economy was getting weaker. People were angry. They were afraid that the country would fall into war. So, they began to talk in secret. They wanted to make a deal. And they needed Mandela. He had already spent more than 20 years in prison. His hair had turned gray. His face was older, but his voice was strong. The government offered him freedom, but only if he stopped fighting. Mandela said no. He said he would not accept freedom while his people were still not free. But at last, the government understood that change had to come. In 1990, after 27 years, the prison gates opened. Nelson Mandela walked out, holding his wife's hand. Thousands of people were waiting. They cheered and cried. Some could not believe their eyes. The man they had not seen for so long was finally free. He looked calm, but powerful. He raised his fist in the air. That moment became part of history. Mandela did not call for revenge. He did not tell people to fight with hate. He said, "Let us work together, black and white, for a better future." Many people were surprised. He had suffered so much, but he chose peace. He spoke of forgiveness, and he meant it. That was his power. Over the next few years, Mandela led talks with the government. They made plans for a new South Africa. There would be no more apartheid. Everyone would have the same rights, to vote, to go to school, to live with dignity. Some people were afraid. They thought there would be violence. But Mandela stayed calm. His voice was steady. He said, "We are one nation. We must walk forward together." And then, in 1994, something incredible happened. For the first time in history, all people in South Africa could vote. The lines were long, people waited for hours under the sun. They smiled, they sang. Some cried. Many of them were voting for the first time in their lives. And they voted for Nelson Mandela. He became the first black president of South Africa. It was a moment that no one had thought possible just a few years earlier. The world celebrated. People said it was a miracle. But Mandela said, "This is not the end. It is only the beginning." As president, he worked hard to bring people together. He created a group called the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It helped people tell the truth about the past, about pain, about loss, about injustice. But the goal was not revenge. The goal was healing. It was not easy. There were many wounds. But Mandela believed that truth and forgiveness were the only way forward. One day, during a famous rugby match, Mandela did something special. He wore the green shirt of the South African team, a team that most black people had hated, because it was a symbol of white power. But Mandela wore it with pride, and he gave the trophy to the team captain, a white man. The crowd went silent, then they cheered. It was a powerful message. He was saying, "We are one nation now." Mandela served only one term as president. He chose not to stay in power. He believed that leaders should know when to step down. He left with grace. But he continued to speak, to travel, to fight for justice around the world. He became a global hero. Presidents and kings wanted to meet him. Children learned his name in schools across the world. But Mandela always stayed humble. He said, "I am not a saint, unless you think of a saint as a sinner who keeps on trying." He knew he had made mistakes. But he never gave up. He always tried to do what was right. After Nelson Mandela left the office of president, many people asked him to stay. They loved him and trusted him. But he said no. He believed that true leaders must leave when the time is right. Power was never his goal. Freedom and peace were always more important to him. So, in 1999, he stepped down. But he did not stop working. He began a new chapter in his life. As a global elder, a wise man of the world, he gave speeches about peace. He spoke about health and education. He met with world leaders, but he also visited sick children in hospitals. Wherever he went, people stood up and clapped. Some even cried. They were in the presence of someone who had suffered and forgiven, someone who had fought and won, not with weapons, but with words and wisdom. Mandela also started a foundation in his name. Its goal was to help children and to build a better future. He said, "There can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children." He believed that every child had the right to go to school, to be safe, and to be loved. Even as he grew older, Mandela stayed active. But time was catching up with him. His steps became slower. His hair turned white. He spent more time at home with his family. People respected that. But still, whenever he appeared in public, the crowds came alive. Everyone wanted to see Madiba, the name that many South Africans used for him. It was a traditional name, full of love and respect. In 2003, he took on a new fight. This time, it was not against apartheid, but against HIV and AIDS. Many people in South Africa were sick, and they were afraid to talk about it. Even Mandela's own son died of AIDS. Mandela said, "Let us not be silent." He spoke openly about the disease. He helped people understand it. He brought light into a dark place. He also worked with a group called the Elders. It was made up of wise leaders from different parts of the world. They gave advice, helped solve problems, and worked for peace. Mandela believed that even when you are old, you can still make a difference. In 2008, he turned 90 years old. The whole world celebrated. Famous people came to his birthday. There were concerts, speeches, and songs. But Mandela stayed humble. He said, "It is time for new hands to lift the burdens. It is in your hands now." He was speaking to young people. He wanted them to take his message and carry it forward. Then, in December 2013, the world received sad news. Nelson Mandela had passed away. He was 95 years old. People across the globe cried. They lit candles. They sang songs. Some danced, not out of joy, but to honor his life. Kings and presidents flew to South Africa. They came not just for a funeral, but for a celebration of a life well lived. At the memorial, a great crowd filled the stadium. It rained, but no one left. People sang in the rain. They held hands. They remembered the man who had walked out of prison without hate. The man who had brought a nation together. Even in death, Mandela's message lived on. He had shown the world that one person can make a difference. That courage is not the absence of fear, but the strength to go forward even when you are afraid. That peace is stronger than violence. That forgiveness is more powerful than revenge. Today, his face still smiles from coins and statues. Schools, streets, and hospitals carry his name. Every year on his birthday, people around the world do good deeds in his honor. They clean schools, plant trees, feed the poor, small acts of kindness to remember a giant of a man. But Mandela's greatest gift was not something you can see. It was the idea he gave us, the belief that all people are equal, that justice can win, and that hope must never die. He taught us to stand tall, to speak the truth, and to dream of a better world. His life was not perfect. He made mistakes. He had pain. But he never stopped trying. He kept walking, even when the road was hard. He believed that no matter how dark the night, the morning will come. And it did. Nelson Mandela once said, "It always seems impossible until it is done." His life proved those words. He showed the world that the impossible can become real, with courage, with faith, and with love. After Nelson Mandela passed away, people around the world remembered him not only as a leader but as a symbol of peace, hope, and courage. In South Africa, thousands of people gathered. They sang, they cried, and they held candles in the dark. His body was buried in Kunu, the village where he grew up. He had said that he wanted to rest in the hills of his childhood, and now he had returned home. Even after his death, Mandela's voice continues to speak. His words are in books, in schools, and in people's hearts. He once said, "It always seems impossible until it is done." That message gives strength to many who still fight for justice. Mandela's true power was not only in what he did, but in how he made people feel. He showed that you can forgive, even when you have suffered. He showed that you can lead without hate. He made people believe that change is possible, even in the darkest times. Statues were built in his honor. His face is on coins and streets named after him. But the best way to remember him is not with metal or stone. The best way is to live like he did, with kindness, respect, and courage. He once said, "It is in your hands now." This means that we must continue the work he started. The world still needs justice. It still needs peace. Mandela's walk to freedom is not finished. Now, it is our turn to walk that path, with our heads held high and our hearts full of hope.